You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon. Nothing?
I don't know, man.
Come on, you have to have like a list of jokes. Come on. This should be like your prep for the podcast. It's just coming up with this, if nothing else.
It's literally the only show prep I have to do, and I don't do it. I have a favorite.
What?
Play the theme song.
Oh, I got to. So do you want to say it?
I mean, I just did.
Oh, but I mean, you should say it again, like officially.
I mean,
do you need me to like lead you into it?
No, I just said it.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon.
I already said it.
Yeah, but like you said it like hypothetically.
No, it was real.
No, you said like this is a thing that I like to say, and then you said it, but like.
And then you played the theme song.
No, I didn't. I haven't played the theme song yet. I'm waiting because I want you to say it like officially.
Well, you haven't done it yet because you haven't edited it yet. You could drop the theme song in right there.
But you didn't officially say it. People can tell.
All right, play the theme song.
Woo! Today we're going to be talking about the second serial of the 13th season of Doctor Who, Planet of Evil, which consists of 4 episodes that aired from September 27th, 1975 to October 18th, 1975.
True facts!
And I'd like to give a special shout out to Matt Golden for getting us these episodes.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
You can follow him on Tumblr at mgoldentumbles.tumblr.com. That's Tumbles without an E, because it's Tumblr. Before we dive in to Planet of Evil, anything going on in your life, Toni?
I've been so sick. I have a couple of things going on, none of which I think I can talk about yet.
You can't even say it like in a very vague way, like without specifics.
I've gotten a new project at work, and if all goes as planned, I will have an exciting announcement in August or September.
She's reconstructing all of the Doctor Who episodes herself, all the missing ones. She's going to play all the roles and like green screen herself together, like being all the characters, right?
I mean, I'm kind of down for that. That's a great idea.
Who are you most excited to play out of the ones from the missing serials? Barbara? You get to play a Chumley.
I was going to say, it's probably the Chumbleys.
I've got some exciting news too. I entered a web series festival competition thing where you get to pitch an idea for a show to people from Comedy Central and PBS and maybe HBO. I'm not sure if HBO is one of the judges or if you win, you just get a meeting with HBO. But I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna go pitch a TV show, and I'm gonna get to go to New York and hang out with Chris Cherry. So that'll be fun. That's coming up soon, next month.
I do have an update. I'm getting slightly better at skating.
Slightly better?
Yeah, slightly better. I have improved a moderate amount.
And you've fully decided on Magic Thighs, correct?
Yes. Everyone at practice mostly calls me Magic. A couple people still call me Thighs. I'm trying to get them to call me Magic.
Oh, Thighs is funner. It's more fun.
It is more fun. It sounds like another girl's name, though, and it gets confusing when we're doing, like, drills and they're calling out names, and I'm like, wait, me? Did you mean me? No? Okay. They didn't mean me. So, nobody has a name that sounds like Magic. So.
But yeah, okay, so you mentioned this briefly, so we should probably say it in depth. When we watched this serial, Planet of Evil, you were pretty darn sick.
Here's the thing. When I am really sick, you won't know it, because I'll be like, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. If I'm a little bit sick...
She is unbearable.
And I was like just the right... I was tired. The kind of thing where you like don't... Like you're not throwing up, but your whole body just is like achy and tired. That's how I was when we watched this serial.
So when we start going through it, keep that in mind.
I was paying attention more than I feel like you think I was paying attention. Because I was sitting there watching it, and you just kept looking over at me and going, I don't know how you're going to do the podcast.
Well, it's because you were laying there like Jabba the Hutt, like your tongue stuck out, and like, blah.
I don't think that actually happened.
I'm just saying, if you seem a little confused, that's the reason why, and not just because that's how you are normally. That is how you are normally, though. Hey, I love you.
All right.
Before we actually do the cereal, though, I thought it would be cool if we opened the mailbag, so to speak. We've been getting like a lot of comments on YouTube and stuff, and I was wanting to like read a couple of them.
Okay.
And discuss them. And
this is news to me.
Yeah, well, I figured it's a just us episode. We generally talk with the guests for a little while, and we don't have a guest, so let's talk with the fans. We've been getting comments on YouTube, and I just wanted to read some that are informative or made me chuckle. For example, Jacob Licklider, I don't know. Licklider sounds like I'm pronouncing it wrong. Said on Inferno, number 1, I really hope Toni loves Joe Grant because Joe is one of my favorites.
I do.
You do. We don't have to read number 2. He also mentioned in a different comment on The Mind of Evil, because that was the whole episode where like the black and white version had color information on it that they used. The man who did episode 1 did it all by hand and has a YouTube channel, Babel Color, where he has other colorization works for black and white Doctor Who. And I actually know I've seen Babel Color stuff on YouTube before.
Oh.
Like, just because I'm like, oh, cool. It's Ian and Barbara in color. Woo! I did not know that he did it officially at one point. He also said on the Sea Devils, I don't remember what this is in reference to. I think we're having like a discussion about what probability something would be. And he said the probability would be 90-10 against, or just 10-90. So I said, you've solved it. You get 1 internet kudos. Don't spend it all in one place.
I do remember there was a discussion wherein we realized we had no idea how probability worked.
I still don't. But now we have the official whatever we were bullshitting about.
We were talking about.
That's what it actually would be. So go back and listen to that episode and just put in 90-10 against or just 10-90. Tomb of the Cybermen, Glenn McCullough, said, how old was the Doctor when he left Gallifrey? In the Ribos operation, the 4th Doctor is 759 and has been driving the TARDIS for 523 years. So he'd have been approximately 236 when he and Susan got the hell out of Dodge. Glenn Facts! I don't know if that's,
how canon that is.
Or consistent.
Everything's as canon as you want it to be. It's as canon as it is in your heart.
Paul Morris on Dalek Invasion of Earth. I guess where there's a lot of us, like, how old are they? How old are they? When did they do this? When did they do that?
Yeah, I'm always very concerned about ages.
In An Unearthly Child, Ian and Barbara decide that Susan is 15, and that is the age she was supposed to appear. Neither she nor the Doctor ever indicate her actual age, and it's difficult to know how ages would relate between humans and Time Lords / Gallifreyans. Not getting into the is Susan a Time Lord argument here. I didn't even know there was an argument about that. If the Doctor appears about 70 when he is 600, then maybe Susan is much older than she appears. If it is a linear relationship, then she could be 90, but still regarded as a child in her own culture. So there you go. In the Daleks' Master Plan, Paul Morris also explained there was this bit at the end of one episode where there's just bells and stuff, and we're like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And it didn't get it brought up in the next episode, so we're like, oh, I guess it was a thing, but I don't know what it was. He said, the celebration at the end of the Volcano episode is New Year's Day in London. Remember that this episode aired the week after the Feast of Stephen on New Year's Day. That's what it was. It was something. And I didn't know New Year's Day in London is celebrated with bells and shit.
Yeah, don't you ever you don't go outside and make noises?
Not bells.
Anything. We used to...
I would just yell Happy New Year's.
We used to get pot lids and smash them together.
This is Glenn McCullough again on the Crotons. The whole glory hole hentai penis section almost gave me a stitch from laughing. Filth. More of this type of thing.
I don't remember that.
That's the one with like the thing comes out of the wall, the like snake robot thing.
Oh, Lord.
Surprisingly, that's not a Ben Padden episode. That's a Chris Cherry episode.
They've normally been Padden episodes.
99% of the time, it's a Ben Padden episode. Do you want to read one?
Sure. What?
Read this next one. This
Which one?
is from Glenn McCullough on the Space Pirates.
A poem about the space pirates. We all fancy Milo Clancy. That's it. I didn't promise a good one.
Terrible delivery.
I was miles above you. Miles.
If you say so.
That was a good poem, by the way.
It was. It's a great poem. You said you didn't promise a good one, but you delivered. This is a comment on Terror of the Autons, also from Glenn McCullough. He said, "My kitchen cannot burn down because, like Mrs. Farrell's, it is keyed in by color separation overlay." And I said we should look into getting one of those because we are constantly burning down our kitchen.
We've never burned down the kitchen once.
We've had 4 kitchens in the process of making this podcast.
We've had 2.
Oh, there's one more. That this is actually a tweet about the episode we're about to talk about.
Okay.
It's from Steve Conway, who said, "In this story, Planet of Evil, there is a science fiction gadget that has in the last 10 years become an everyday reality."
Oh.
Did you catch it? Do you know what it is?
Do you want me to say?
No, we'll talk about it when we get to it.
Then why'd you ask?
I don't know. I thought you might have a joke.
We literally did like a whole 10-minute segment about how I don't make any jokes.
This episode has a real doll in it. Before they were a thing.
What the fuck kind of a joke is that?
Well, it's not a joke. That's what he was talking about. Steve Conway on Twitter, at Steve Conway. It's predicted something that's like now an everyday reality. Real dolls.
What are you even talking about?
Planet of Evil.
Can we talk about Doctor Who in the real world now, please?
Ooh, the Doctor Who in the real world? Like if he came out of the TV show into the real world?
Yeah.
That'd be weird. Question. Does he still retain, like, the abilities that he has? Like, does he still have the sonic screwdriver? Does it work in reality?
He has the sonic screwdriver, but it's just a prop. You press the button and it goes, but that's it.
Doesn't actually do anything. Does he still have... he's, like, super smart in the show, but, like, a lot of that's just bullshit made up.
Yeah.
In the real world, is he still kind of smart, at least? Can he, like, futz with machinery and stuff?
Yeah.
And, like, electronics?
But all his technobabble is just technobabble.
Yeah, but I mean, does he, like, go to work on, like, something technical and he's like, what the hell is this? This is not the way I know it. It doesn't... I can't just reverse the flow,
within
the polarity of the neutron flow.
He's probably, like, better than you at computers, but he's probably not actually, like, an engineer. Like, he has above...
He can Google really well.
Yeah. He has, like, above average knowledge of most things. But any science of his that would be made up is still made up.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Does the TARDIS still work?
No.
So he doesn't even have the TARDIS?
No. It's just a box.
Is it still bigger on the inside?
No. It's the same size on the inside.
This is a bummer. So why would we even want him in the real world without all of his special abilities? Would you still hang out with the Doctor?
Sure. I mean, I probably wouldn't at all. Like, depending on which one it is.
Without his fancy TARDIS and abilities.
No, I mean, like, with them, I still probably wouldn't, depending on the Doctor.
Question, does he still regenerate?
No, he just dies.
This sounds like a person. This just sounds like a person.
Yes.
Would they even know, like, English very well? Like, because I'm assuming a lot of that's just Gallifreyan.
Yeah, he knows English well enough.
Yeah, but it's, like, mostly translated stuff, right? From the TARDIS.
No, he knows a lot of languages.
Okay.
Manually.
You want to talk about Planet of Evil?
God, please, can we?
Alright, let's do it. Episode 1, which I've called Last Planet on the Left.
Why?
It's a reference to Last House on the Left, which is a horror movie. And this is a very horror...
It's a spooky one.
Serial.
That's a spooky one, you guys.
It's a spooky one, and Last Planet on the Left is also a reference to the Planet of Evil, which is apparently on, like, the outskirts of the universe, right? They're like, this is the last planet out here. It's on the far edge of everything.
Of all of it. There's nothing past here.
Not even a Starbucks.
Not even one.
So that's what we open on. We see the planet, which looks like a giant, pink, wrinkly testicle.
It doesn't look like a testicle. It just looks like a normal planet and everything.
Why is it so wrinkly?
Why are your testicles so wrinkly?
I don't know. I'm not a botanist. No, wait, that's plants.
Why can't we just talk about the show?
We are talking about the show. You're just
Why do you have to make everything You're always like, that's a penis. And, like, it's almost never a penis.
No, it's not. It's testicles.
It's not. It's just a planet.
That looks like a big old ball.
It doesn't. You're just trying to make jokes.
I'm not trying to make jokes. If it doesn't look like a testicle, it looks like a slightly chewed up gumball.
That's fine. That's what it looks like.
You know what a slightly chewed up gumball looks like? Testicles.
Not everything is your genitals.
I didn't say they were my genitals. I'm very smooth.
I don't know what that means.
Alright, so we're on this planet, which the set design is really, really nice for this planet. Like, so nice that, like, if I remember correctly what I read on Wikipedia, was, like, so good that, like, the BBC used footage of it for, like, demo reels and stuff. Like, look at our amazing sets. Because it's, like, this big swamp area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, vines and weird trees and plants and everything. And, it looks like a location.
Yeah.
But it's a set. It's all, and it's, like, really intricately, like, planned out and stuff. So much so they had difficulty tearing it down.
Really?
Yeah, like they had a lot of trouble like pulling it all down and stuff because it was like in such intricately put together pieces. But it's really cool. It's like a lot of like, it's very red. It's like a swamp jungle. But there's also like this really nice area of like a cave wall almost. It's like a cliff wall with a giant scary ass hole in it.
Yeah, the void. The hole
void.
to nowhere.
But on this planet are some researchers, scientists of some sort. One of them comes out of his little, I don't know, shack. It's not really a shack, but you know, wherever they're bunkered up, and plants a grave marker. That's the first thing that happens in this serial, is basically a graveyard of just other people from this expedition.
For some reason, you were real impressed with the craftsmanship of the grave marker.
Well, it's like very well. It's not like a handmade thing. It's like printed out, sort of. But like metalwork and stuff. Like, did they have a machine that just made grave markers? Why did they bring that? Like, is there other uses for this thing other than making grave markers? Or were they like aware that maybe people would die and they need to make grave markers? Why aren't they bringing these dead people back to Earth? Why are they leaving them on this weird planet of evil? Or what they do later with dead bodies is they just shoot them out into space. So why didn't they shoot them out into space?
Well, they weren't in space.
No, but they could be later. They could save them up, put them in
them
storage.
Where?
In storage. It's
like a back closet somewhere?
Yeah, it's a whole planet. Listen, they have a grave marker label maker. I feel like
they have a grave marker label maker because they don't have dead body storage. It is an either-or situation.
Okay, but they're also, like, collecting samples.
You get hung up on weird stuff.
Listen, they're collecting samples of stuff. Why don't they have a place to put bodies? They put wherever they're going to put the samples and stuff.
Well, like, it's same?
Like, what if they found, like, a big sample of something?
A big sample of what?
I don't know. Rock shit. Like, big old mineral thing. They're like, oh, we gotta carry all this back. It's like a big old chunk.
That's not the same as keeping a dead body.
What if it's the
Rocks
same
don't
size as a
decompose.
dead body?
Size isn't the problem.
Well, they still probably need to keep it like an airtight thing because there could be like unknown sickness bugs. What are they called? Like stuff that's alien particles or whatever that could like make you sick. So they need to keep it in something that's like sealed.
Are you gonna get to the word germs or
germs? Thank you. You know, sickness bugs.
Sickness particles. The rocks might have the sickness particles on them.
They might. So they need to seal them up in a big container because they got a lot of them. That is what they're doing. They are mining for these little stones that change colors.
Yeah.
They find them, and when they do, the planet doesn't seem too happy about it.
No.
It's like the planet's actually reacting to it. It's shaking a little bit, and the temperature is dropping. So they're like, we need to get back or whatever. And this is where we meet Sorensen, who looks like Terry Gilliam, and theorizes that this planet is alive because he's Ian. It's been a while since we've had a character say something is alive. But the one guy with him wants to leave because he's like, this doesn't seem great. Everything's all crazy. We've been having people die left and right. Last time we hit a good vein on this mining expedition, Lorenzo died, whoever Lorenzo is. But Sorensen's like, no, this is great. We need to stay. And
They've hit
Get
like
all
a
this stuff.
major vein. And what he says that it's going to move if they don't get it. He's like, the planet knows, and the planet will hide the vein from us, so I have to like get as much as I can now.
And meanwhile, back at the base camp where the guy is just finished burying a body, he's like looking around and then just starts acting very weird, throwing his arms up in the air and going, and then he falls down like he's being crushed by something you can't see. And then he just slowly disappears.
That's what happens.
This will happen 3 more times
So
to various people.
it happens 3 times. It's how people die. But also, there are bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this scene happens, and then, like, a scene a little later on, we see that dead body. And, like, the first time it happens, I was like, so wait a minute. Is that his body?
Well, because when we see a body, it doesn't look like him anymore, because it's like...
It's been, like, aged.
Or it's had all of the moisture sucked out of it.
Yes, that. And it was very confusing, like, until there is a scene where we actually see, like, the person getting crushed, they disappear.
I know.
And then the body pops back up, and I was like, oh, okay.
I'm not sure why it works like that.
That seems like a needlessly complicated process.
I'm assuming because, well, spoilers, what it is it's antimatter, right? It's like an antimatter monster. Maybe it's like sucking it into the
antimatter dimension, and then it comes back.
It like sucks up all at once and then just poops it back out, basically. The people, like, it's taken all the nutrients and then expelled the waste.
Ew. That's the worst! That's the worst explanation.
That's science, Toni.
Ugh.
That's how people eat.
Yeah?
But the one guy that is not team Let's Mine stuff runs back to the base. Along the way, it does like, he's like looking around the swamp and it just zooms in on things that I guess are supposed to be scary, but I have no idea what any of them are. And also, they never come back. Like, he's like running through the swamp and then it goes zoom on this like weird plant. He like, looks over at something else and it goes zoom on another weird plant. He's like, and then he runs off. And it's like, that went absolutely nowhere. I don't think the plants or anything like that in this serial are dangerous.
I think he was just frightened of everything.
Of everything?
Yeah. You know, you ever have to like turn the lights off in the basement?
Never had a basement.
Oh. But sometimes you have to turn the light off in the basement and you gotta like turn the light off and then run to the top of the stairs because everything's scary. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's just scary.
It's just a coat on a chair.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy that. He gets to the base. He acts weird too. He hits a button and then he gets stopped disappeared. But he sent out basically a distress signal.
And the doctor gets that distress signal.
Oh, right, the doctor's in this. Which is the first time we've gotten to see the interior of the TARDIS in the run of the 4th Doctor.
I wouldn't realize.
Yeah, it looks pretty much like it did.
Like you expect it to.
I think they forgot to put the scanner in there. Like, I read that in the trivia. It's like, they forgot to put the scanner in there. I guess they're going to have to fix it later. But the doctor is basically trying to wiggle out of going to London, because that's where they were supposed to go.
I like when he pulls the whole, like, I have a time machine. I can get you there 5 minutes from then at any time.
And he says, like, I mean... we're going somewhere. It's just we're going somewhere at 30,000 years too late. She's like, what? And not only is it 30,000 years too late, we're on the edge of the goddamn universe.
Yeah,
we're nowhere near
not
Earth.
Even kind of close. I think what I like about this is that later in the serial, he pretty expertly pilots the TARDIS.
He does. For like the first time, I feel like.
Yeah. And so I feel like he was just gonna like, well, I'll sneak in one more adventure.
For sure. It's 100% what happened. He's a big old liar. So they materialize on the planet because they get the distress call. They walk and bicker a little bit. Then Sarah Jane just stops and starts acting really weird. I thought she was about to get stomped on, but it was something else. Like she could sense something.
Yeah, she said it felt like she was getting pulled out of her body.
I'm not sure why this only happened to Sarah Jane or what it was exactly.
I mean, she had, for some reason, she could sense the thing.
And it becomes an important plot point later on.
Yeah, it's not that, like, nothing comes of it. It's just, it's never said why, like...
Why it's not, like, just her getting stomped or
why it's a thing that happens to her specifically as opposed to anyone else.
Yeah, because it doesn't happen to anyone else, just her. I don't know. sexism.
Why would it be sexism?
I don't know. Like it only does it to women, and she's the only woman in this serial. There are no other women in this. Now that I'm thinking about it. Everyone else is dudes. So the doctor shows up with something he found. Like he comes back for her because she's all frozen, and he has a tool of some sort. And he's like, so there are definitely beings here. Yeah. Sarah Jane says they must be humanoid. And he's like, what? And she's like, well, because they have hands. Because the tool is hand-shaped, I guess.
That was one of my favorite jokes, if only because Joe asked the question slightly before Sarah Jane answered it. She was like, well, they must be humanoid. And Joe was like, how do you know that? And like, as if in response, she was like, well, they've got hands. And I was like, there you go. She told you.
Something that's not humanoid could have a hand.
That's humanoid-ish if it's got a hand.
What if it's like just a dog with hands?
A dog with hands?
A dog with hands. You don't know. The universe is infinite and could be full of all sorts of
What does that even look like?
A dog with hands.
Right. What I'm saying, are the hands like in addition or
No,
in replacement?
in replacement.
Are they furry? Like, are they like...
Yeah, they're like little werewolf hands. But they're like, you know...
But they still walk on all fours.
They got opposable thumbs and shit.
How do they manipulate things if they're walking on their hands?
They raise up on their back hands and grab hold.
I feel like that makes them bipedal, and that makes them humanoid.
Pedial?
Pedial?
Bipedal.
Bipedal?
Yeah.
Bipedal?
Yeah. There's no I or anything. It's Bipedal.
Okay.
I think. Monkeys go around on all fours, but I can also like lift up and hold stuff. So it'd be like that, but with a dog. And that's definitely not humanoid, right?
I don't know, but I don't like the visual at all.
What if they were just birds with hands?
Where would their hands be, Joseph?
Where their wings are!
You say that like it's
wings,
obvious.
Wings with hands on the end of them.
With hands on the end?
Yeah. That happens a lot on Doctor Who, because there's guys in bird suits. So, then we see a spaceship heading for this planet, which we learn is Zeta Minor, the last planet of the universe. And the people on the ship are coming to basically rescue them. And they all...
nobody's heard from this mission in a while.
Yeah. Plus, I assume the distress signal is being sent out as well, so they're following that. They all look like blue Power Rangers.
They have some really nice shoulder padding rings.
Like I said, like they're like not like the old TV show Power Rangers, but like the movie, like the ones with like the big shoulder pad things going on.
I didn't know there were Power Rangers with big shoulder pads.
Yeah, I think it might be the movie or later series. I'm not like huge into the Power Rangers fandom. I know like the original show, it's just like the straight blue, jumpsuit thing or whatever. But like these, like the ones where they're like super fancy and like armored and whatever, they have like the big shoulder blade things.
All right.
But they're all Billies. There's two main ones who are your typical brash young guy. And older,
brash young David.
Brash young David and a wiser old guy. The brash young David's actually been on the show before. He was not the guy I thought he was. I thought he was the guy from The Mutants, but he was one of the Thals in, one of those fucking Dalek serials. The one with the invisible creatures.
Oh, right.
He was in that one. He was the brash young David in that episode.
Who was even the original David? Why do we call them David?
I think it might have been in Dalek Invasion of Earth, possibly.
Okay.
But he was the brash young David that was like in that Dalek episode who just wanted to shoot everything all the time.
It's a little bit different because this brash young David is actually in charge.
Is he?
He is. We talked about this day of.
Okay.
He's in command. And the older, wiser gentleman, who just wants everyone to calm down for a minute, is not in charge.
But it still basically follows the same route.
Yeah. Only when there's a mutiny this
idiot.
time, you're for it.
There's some more of these guys, one of which we'll get to in a little while, that is my favorite. But for now, we'll just talk, that's the two you need to remember. It's Brash Young David and, older guy.
Old wise guy.
Old wise guy. He's an old wise guy. Just constantly cracking jokes. So the Doctor and Sarah Jane make it to the base, which is without power. The Doctor needs like some science equipment, so Sarah Jane's like, I'll run back to the TARDIS and get it. And he's like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, I'm fucking capable. He's like, all right, cool, and gives her the TARDIS key, and she gets out of there. But the Blue Power Rangers find the TARDIS, and while Sarah Jane's inside of it, and they basically beam it up to their ship.
Yep.
And then Sorensen, who is the Terry Gilliam head scientist guy, the only survivor of this group of expedition people.
They said they took out like 7 or 8.
Yeah, something like that. It was a big old group of them. Shows up and is like, just, hey, I'm here.
Yeah, you're looking for me. You found me. They ask him what happened to, like, weren't there like 7 of you? He's like, yeah, we've lost some people. He's like, well, what about so-and-so? They called in, like, the distress message. They should be here. And he was like, yeah, he left because he was tired. He went to go lay down. He'll be fine. He just needed to rest, but he's fine. And it's like the guy who we just saw die.
Right.
He's not fine.
Well, I mean, to be fair to Sorensen doesn't know that.
He knows.
No. Because, like, I mean, Sorensen isn't, like, a bad character. He's kind of dumb. Like, he's not evil. Like, I don't think he's, like, purposely, like, trying to fuck people over or anything.
No, but I think the way that it's played is he's kind of like... It's like he's trying to remember something or otherwise forget something when he's talking about people. Mm-hmm. I think there's a part of him that definitely knows what happened. And, like, the rest of him is like, no, he's fine. Because if he's not fine, then, like, all of the choices I'm making are kind of fucked up.
Right. Well, I mean, because they decide, he's like, I'll show you where the base is. Let's all go to the base. So he's, like, leading them there. Yeah. So. He didn't
kill them or, like, thinks that... I'm just saying he knows that, like, most of the people in his crew have died, and if he is dead, it's probably his fault.
So they get there and they find the Doctor surrounded by these dead bodies. Or at least 2 of them. It doesn't look good for the Doctor. Yeah. They kind of, like, think he did it. Or at least Brash Young David does. Sarah Jane, meanwhile, gets out of the TARDIS on the ship and, like, can't breathe because there's no air in there. And they're like, oh, I guess she must be human. And they turn the air back on. They're calling up from the base to the ship, like, hey, bring us on the ship. They're having difficulties. And, like, I think the Doctor says something a lot like, my ship probably has better receivers than yours does. Or my receivers are probably better than yours. And then, like, one of the Blue Rangers says, shut up, and, like, hits him. And he goes, my manners certainly are. Also, you pointed out during this scene, when the scene starts, it's the guy talking on the radio to the ship, and the Doctor is just staring. Staring
so intently. At what?
Nothing.
Don't know. This is not the first time he's done it.
It's not the only time he does it in this serial.
In the serial. And I like it a lot. I don't know. I've seen it happen a couple of times where he is just... whatever that is that he's doing, he's just doing it in the background of a scene, and it's very odd in a way that I enjoy. I like whenever I look over the Doctor and I'm like, what is he doing? Why?
Yeah, because he does it a little bit later in this same episode where, like, Sorensen is telling the story of what all happened to his crew and everything. To, like, because, like, they all get on board the ship, I think, and they're just like, or the ship lands on the planet, and Sorensen's just telling his story, and the whole time, the Doctor's just zoned out, looking at something that's nothing there. He does it multiple times.
He's just thinking.
Like, with his eyes, like, wide open. It's like he uses his eyes to hear.
And he's listening to something in the next room.
But everybody gets caught up on what all's going on, and Brash Young David thinks that the Doctor and Sarah Jane are the killers, the ones who did all this, because they don't know who they are. But they know who Sorensen is and everything, so it can't be Sorensen, right?
Right?
Right? It's not Sorensen, though. Neither one of them, really. So they're going to, they're like, send him off to a cell, and like, we're going to execute you later. And inside the cell, the most adorable scene happens, which is just the Doctor and Sarah Jane just sort of sitting on a bunk, and like, Sarah Jane just like, is like, sort of rocking back and forth, and she just leans into the Doctor and goes, let's get out. And he's like, we can't, we're locked in. And she's like, but the power is low. Because the planet has been like fucking with the power levels of everything, right? The power is low, so they can open the door.
It's a window. And the way that it locks is magnetically. And Sarah Jane is actually the one who points this out. She's like, or the doctor says, we can't get out through the window. They're locked magnetically. And she says, well, but the power is low. And the doctor looks very pleased. And then, like, the next shot of them is just not big in the cell.
They basically break out, and they're, like, going through the swamp area and are stopped by a giant red outline. It's a creature that is made up of a red outline. That's all it is.
It's not a bad effect.
It's actually really cool. It's very similar to what they did with the giant goat thing from the Demons.
The Demons.
Remember the giant goat thing from the end of it when he's like all like glowing and pink? It's kind of
similar to that. It has like a weirdly defined mouth that you can totally see.
I think it's somebody in a costume. It definitely is later when it's the outline becomes somebody else. But I guess they did something with CSO somehow. I don't know exactly what they did, but it's really cool. But that's the end of episode 1, and we're now into episode 2, which I've called Attack of the Mutant Outline.
Oh, there you go.
So presumably this red thing is what's been stomping people, right? This red outline?
Yeah, because it was invisible and then it appeared.
Why doesn't it just stay invisible?
I feel like they were running out of ways to reveal things, and they were like, it's just invisible until it's not.
Because being invisible...
Its visibility is plot dependent.
Because I feel like visibility is less tactical, right?
Yeah, unless you're trying to flip somebody off.
Just to fuck you before you kill them?
Yeah.
You have a real talent for getting in the head of villains.
What does that mean?
Just anytime I question a villain's motives, you're like, no, it makes sense. Trust me.
I'd know. So
one of the blue Power Rangers sees the giant red thing and shoots it, and
at this point, I was like, oh, this is gonna go easier than expected. This guy saw the monster, so he can be like, hey, they're totally telling the truth. There's another monster. They didn't kill anybody. And I was like, great, this is gonna wrap up real quick.
He immediately gets murdered.
Yeah.
He gets foot stomped. Disappears. And that's when we see, for the first time, reappears,
yes.
But, like, mummified. It's, like, really disgusting, too. It's, like...
genuinely off-putting.
Yeah, it looks like a mummy. It's, like, yellowed and just, like... like a mummy. It's gross. It's just, like, it's, like, all shriveled up. And I'm like, Jesus, this episode is a little intense. But the Doctor and Sarah Jane get away. They think that the Doctor and Sarah Jane killed that guy. Like, they're like, the power drain let them out of the cell.
They got out,
and
and now there's another dead body.
So it didn't go as smoothly as you thought, Toni.
No, my hopes were dashed.
So they launch a device to track them down, which is a flying Roomba with a fucking the eye of Sauron for some reason.
It's got a cat eye.
Why?
It's creepier. I love the drone.
Yeah, that's what Steve Conway was talking about, was a drone. Sorry to mislead you about the real doll. There's no real dolls.
Yeah, I still don't understand why that was the joke you chose to make.
Because it's ridiculous.
It's just weird. Anyway, I wish my drone had like a big roving cat eye that like moved wherever it was looking.
Again, you just seem to be able to get into the mindset of the villains with the greatest of ease. For those of you who are listening to this podcast, Toni is miming the drone. She is bobbing her head back and forth, and she has put her hand to her forehead as if it is the eye. I don't know why she doesn't do it like this. That would make more sense. I'm doing it better than her for those of you listening to the podcast. For you who support our Patreon, you can see us do it. That's a Patreon exclusive. Patreon.com/Watch-A-Thon. All right, so what's next?
Can we pause for a minute and talk about how you basically described the drone as a flying Roomba?
Am I wrong?
I don't know.
It looks like a flying Roomba with a giant eye on it. I'm not saying drones look like Roombas.
Are you saying in general,
this thing does.
Drones are Roombas that fly?
No. Most drones have, like, things on them and stuff that, like, little arms and everything. This specific one is just a round...
I thought you were talking about the concept.
No. It's just the design of this specific drone looks like a Roomba with the Eye of Sauron. But it searches for the Doctor and Sarah Jane, and they kind of hide, which is they just slightly duck behind a bush.
That's all you gotta do.
And then stare. That's a really good shot, though. It's like real moody. And then they talk about Shakespeare? The Doctor talks about meeting Shakespeare for a little bit because he likes to brag.
I always wonder when, like, sometimes the Doctor will name drop somebody way before they ever meet them on screen like this. And I'm like, I feel like it's 50-50 as to whether, like, he did actually meet him before and, like, just didn't mention it when he meets him again. Like, it'd be awkward.
Right, because I look completely different.
Yeah, it's 50-50 that it's either that or the Doctor was just full of shit the first time he said it. And is just, like, trying to be impressive.
Either way sounds plausible.
Yeah, it could so easily be either one.
It could be both.
How could it be both?
Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. All canon is correct.
All canon is true canon.
So they've studied the dead body and find out that all of the liquid has been removed from it. Sorensen doesn't really care. He just wants to get his samples and leave. But
he's about to make a scientific discovery, and that's really all that matters.
They won't leave because the brash young David is like, no, we gotta go stop the bad guys. We gotta kill them. We gotta kill them. He's like very obsessed with finding the Doctor and Sarah Jane, which the Doctor and Sarah Jane have found the big old hole. And it's like a pool there's like a pool in it. Pool. I know I'm pronouncing it weird. Pool. There we go.
What are you saying?
Pool? I don't know, like, I'm saying it and it just feels weird in my mouth.
Pool.
They find it, the hole has a pool in it, but with no reflection. Because
it's just inky blackness.
But the drone finds them, and the Power Rangers capture them. Well, they like, struggle with them, and one of them falls down the hole. Which, it's the black guy, by the way. And I told him when he first showed up, way at the beginning of the episode, don't die. And he did.
You told him?
I said, don't die. I whispered it, don't die. And he
say,
did.
It seems like there has been...
Not the first one, so that's something.
And there has been, like, somebody is cognizantly trying to cast more people of color, like, at this point in time, it seems like.
Not women, though.
No, yeah. I think there have been, like, particularly with stories set in the future, they're like, we need to show that, like, the world has become more global. Right. And that is something that is, like, clearly trying to be achieved. And, like, by our standards, it's pretty weak.
Right.
But, like, it's also very clear that, like, there's a decision being made there. And that's pretty cool.
They did drop the ball on the amount of women, though. Because, like, I mean, so far, like for example, Ark in Space had a woman on board and everything. Yeah. So, they've been doing it, but, like, they generally do have at least one female. It generally gets one.
The
Smurfette. But, like, they didn't even have one here.
That's true.
The next scene introduces my favorite character. I don't know his name. Maybe he doesn't even have a name. Sorensen is bragging about finding this new energy source, these color-changing rocks. He's like, this is, like, the biggest scientific discovery in history.
Like, they've basically exhausted their planet of resources. Their whole planet's gonna die out unless they do something, and he has the solution, and it's these glowy rocks.
And it's like, this is it. This is the one. This is what's gonna change everything.
My life's work.
And the guy he's talking to, one of the blue Power Rangers, is just like, where do you want me to move it to? Like, he just does not care. And he is my favorite character in this entire serial. Partially because of that response and partially because of some stuff he does later. But, like,
he continues not to care.
He continues to not give a shit about any of this. And it's beautiful. Like, just that one, just the reaction to him there when he's like, this is the greatest scientific discovery. And there's just, like, 5 seconds of him just, like, staring at him like... Anyway. And that is the first time that he moves the samples, which is in these, like, little coffee tins.
Yeah, they look like they probably at some point held cookies.
And then they just painted them silver.
But space cookies.
Space cookies. Star Crunch.
Star Crunch isn't a cookie.
Star Crunch is a cookie.
Star Crunch is a snack cake.
Okay, but it's crunchy. Like a cookie.
Lots of things are crunchy.
Cakes aren't crunchy.
It's not a cookie.
It's cookie-esque.
It's cookie adjacent.
I want a Star Crunch. What's this? I remember this being funny, but I don't remember what's the reference to. Dr. Plead's not guilty.
That's before anything even happens. They, like, bring them into the room and they're like, they like are listing the crimes that they've been arrested for, and the doctor just goes, "Oh, not guilty." And I'm like,
Very casually.
No one was asking. The thing about Sarah Jane shutting him up too is that like the doctor's doing his bit where he's like talking over the people who are like accusing him of stuff. The guy's like, "If you say another thing, we'll just kill you right now." And he goes to open his mouth, and Sarah Jane, like, basically elbows him. I think she just gives him a death glare, actually, and it shuts him down.
But he says that the hole in the pool is a barrier to another universe, an anti-universe, anti-matter, which we've had that before, right? In the Three Doctors with Omega. Do you think, like, Omega's on the other side of that?
Just chilling.
And says that Sorensen cannot take his samples because it could destroy the universe. Like, the planet will not want to let go of the antimatter.
This planet is so far out on the edge of the universe
that it's, like, close to another universe.
Yeah, that it's close to, like, the antimatter universe. It's, like, the gateway to it. See, okay, so here's the thing. The crystals, the rocks, they're not antimatter.
Yeah, they are.
They are. But they're fine on the planet, and if they leave the planet, they'll annihilate?
Yeah. The further away it gets, it'll mix with something and cause, like, a reaction, like a fission, like nuclear fission, I think is what he says at one point. Something worse
Matter
than that.
and antimatter would annihilate each other, yeah.
Yeah, if it gets too far away from its source, I guess. Something like that.
So the actual crystals themselves are antimatter.
Right.
That confuses me, but okay. Because they're not.
Yeah, they're rocks that change color.
Yeah. If they're already existing in this, it's confusing. It's fine.
But because the doctor has some, he checks the samples and he takes some and puts it in a little tin, which just complicates things later and does absolutely nothing except complicate things.
Yeah, he's like, I'm being sneaky and I'm going to learn some things. But instead he just screws future him over.
But they're going to take off the planet, but they can't because power starts going all wibbly wobbly, and it's because there's an outline monster there. And Sorensen's just super excited and is like, "It's a being made of pure energy." Real nerd.
Real nerd.
And so the Power Rangers are shooting at it, and it's not working, and the doctor suggests some sort of mumbo-jumbo, technical... What's it? Like, shoot it with a
polarity beam.
Yeah. I'm really surprised he didn't say reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. But he said something else. Something is equally dumb. And so they do. And what the doctor said to do is to shoot it with big blue glowing star outlines. Like, blast it. And it's red outlines with blue star outlines. Like really cheap cartoon explosion effects on it, basically. I loved it. I was like cackling when it happened. And that works. It goes away. Sorensen and the doctor have this sort of argument about the rocks. And Sorensen's like, this is going to be a great fuel source. It's going to save my people. And I'm going to save the Earth with these minerals. And the doctor... Earth? Yeah, they're from Earth.
Are they?
Yeah. They know humans.
Then why didn't they need air?
No, it was only Sarah Jane in the like center of the room. They didn't know she was human. They had air, but where she was at didn't have air. And
I didn't realize they were from Earth. I just assumed that they were aliens from an alien planet.
No, they're from Earth.
Okay.
But he's like, I can save Earth with these minerals, and the doctor says, no, you can't. Nuh-uh. This energy thing's not gonna let you go away. So he's like, but I can talk to it, possibly. I'm really smooth with the energy outlines. So he's gonna go talk to it and try to negotiate with the energy outline. He goes out there, they send the drone to follow him, which that's a really cool shot. When the drone's following him, it's like the camera is locked onto the drone, and it's like just flying through the air, and you just see the doctor underneath it walking through the swamp. Which, I mean, they probably just attached the drone to it like a crane or something.
It's probably attached physically to the camera.
Yeah, that's a very Sam Raimi shot. For those of you who watch Sam Raimi, you know what I'm talking about. The doctor gets there, and the outline, it's actually a different outline. Because the outline we've been seeing is like it's very like just a big, beefy, like dude shape, right? Human shape, right?
Sure.
It's definitely got arms and a head and everything, right? And a body, but it's just like a big, muscular looking thing. But the thing coming out of the hole is just like a big, sluggy, bulbous tube thing. It's not It's not like a shape of anything. It's just like a big glob that's coming up out of the hole. And the doctor starts going, like he's holding his head and stuff. And then he falls into the hole. And it freeze frames like him just outside of the hole.
That's the cliffhanger.
That's the cliffhanger. It's the second freeze frame cliffhanger we've had. The last one was when Sarah Jane fell off that scaffolding. And that's the end of episode 2. Now we're into episode 3, which I've called The Stimulation of the Doctor.
Oh.
What? It happens.
Okay.
And then we see that all again with no freeze frame, and he just straight up falls in the hole. The Blue Power Rangers are just like, well, he ceased to exist. And Sarah Jane does not buy that. While Brash, Young David and Sorensen are like arguing about the minerals and stuff, Sarah Jane just straight up sneaks out. Like they're being so like dramatic that Sarah Jane is able to just slowly walk past them and open a door and leave. No one's watching her. Then the Doctor falls through the void. Very reminiscent of that time that the Doctor tried to TARDIS with just the TARDIS console in Inferno. Except in that was like John Pertwee making a bunch of faces, silly faces. And this is like the Doctor falling through emptiness and like looking terrified. Fun fact about that, he's not wearing his scarf. This is like one of the few times he's not wearing his scarf in the show. He purposely takes it off in an earlier scene because they knew there was going to be this scene. And like if he's falling through a void, it would look weird if the scarf wasn't really flopping about everywhere. So they're like, we're just going to have him take it off earlier.
Smart.
But he's falling through nothing. Weird effects are happening. Distortion. And then it just like, there's a really wide shot where he's really, really tiny. And we see the gigantic red outline just like staring at him.
It's huge. It's so much bigger than he is.
And we don't even see the whole size of the red outline thing. It's still fucking huge. And the Doctor's so tiny. It's kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
Just this journey to the unknown. Then we get my favorite guy. Doesn't give a shit guy's back. And they're moving the minerals. Because, I don't know, they've moved them somewhere, and now they're moving them back to where they were.
They've moved them
I guess they're getting rid of them.
onto the ship, and now they're moving them off of the ship.
Because the Doctor said that, yeah.
The Doctor said the ship wouldn't be able to leave without it. And even Brash Young David's like, okay, well then take them off the ship. These things aren't in any way important to Brash Young David. He's like, my only goal is to, 1, retrieve the science party that's out here. Did it. Done. 2, eliminate any aggressors. That's gotten complicated. So whatever. At least get the stuff off of my ship so we can go.
And the doesn't give a shit guy is just like, move it here, move it there. Wish they'd make up their minds. And the guy is with it is just like, yeah, they changed their minds. And he's like, well, I wish they'd change them first for once. For a change. Just so tired of it. He's like, I moved them here. Now I'm moving them back. They should pay me just to stay in one place. Like, I feel like it's almost like a meta commentary on the shit that happens in Doctor Who, where they move, like, from one area to the next, and they keep going back and forth just to, like, fill time. And I feel like that's, like, some writer who's tired of writing this shit, and is like, there's gonna be some guy complaining about it, because I'm tired of writing these fucking scenes.
I feel like it's also, anytime there's a character like that on Doctor Who, I'm like, that's Joe. That's Joe very begrudgingly being somewhere cool on an awesome adventure and being like, I'm tired. That was scary. Can we do something not dangerous? Like, I was told we were going to go to a beach, not get murdered by tin cans.
But while they're moving this, Sorensen sort of sneaks around and grabs one and steals it and takes it to his room. One of the containers of antimatter minerals. But Sarah Jane makes it to the hole, pulls the Doctor out of the hole, and he like immediately just passes out. He is not doing well. The ship's about to take off, but they see the Doctor and Sarah Jane on the drone's camera. And Brash and David's like, let's just fucking leave. Now he wants to leave.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, we gotta go get him. And he's like, fine, just hurry. So they all head out to go get them. Meanwhile, Sorensen is like being affected by this mineral stuff. And he just like starts holding his head, and he goes to the mirror, and he like looks up in the mirror, and he moves his hands from in front of his face, and his eyes are just glowing red.
They're creepy.
It's not like you can see his eyes either. It's just like bright glowing red. Ugh, it's very, very creepy.
He fixes it with coffee. It's not coffee, but he does have like this sort of
solution
mug thing, and it is steaming. It looks like coffee.
It's something he's made to counteract the effects, and he thinks it works, but it doesn't really. It temporarily works, but it'll eventually stop working, and then he'll be just like permanently fucked, basically. We learn that later on, but yeah, he drinks it and then his eyes go back to normal. I'm the same way without a cup of Joe in the morning.
You hate coffee.
I do hate coffee. But that's a joke that could be made. The doctor gets brought in, taken to the med bay, and this is where they stimulate him back to life.
Do they use the word stimulate?
They like put this thing on him, like turn the stimulation power up to 11, and they're like, that's too dangerous. No one can withstand that much stimulation, and they're like, do it. And like, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's exactly what happens.
No one can withstand that much stimulation.
They turn it up to 11 and he goes, woo! And he's fine. He gets properly stimulated. And it's the doesn't give a shit guy who's doing it. He's the guy that's like, whoa, that's too much stimulation, bro. Can't do it. And it's the old wise guy who's like, do it! And then the doctor wakes up, and the doctor says that he made a promise to leave behind the rocks. He fucks up his line, too.
What? How does he?
I think he says, I made a promise. I think he's supposed to say a Time Lord's promise, or the promise of a Time Lord.
Oh, that makes sense!
Right, because Sarah Jane says, promise of a Time Lord? Like, questioningly. And I was like, did I miss something? He didn't say Time Lord. It's because he forgot to say that bit.
He was supposed to say Time Lord. Yeah, because she mentions it later. And I was like, is she just saying, like...
Because he's a Time Lord and it's a promise?
Yeah. She's just bringing that up, or he was... Oh, that makes so much more sense. That he was supposed to be like, I made a Time Lord's promise. Okay, thank you.
Right, I was reading the wiki and I was like, oh, thanks. Because that was very confusing. Because he just said, I made a promise. And then paused for a minute. And like, Sarah Jane pauses for a second too, like,
my line doesn't make sense anymore.
The promise of a Time Lord? Shit. So that's what that was about. He's like, we promised to leave behind the minerals. I promised that. And like the ship starts to take off, but it can't. And he's like, oh shit, it's because I have some. Which is partially true, but it's also because Sorensen has some. But he like runs up and is like, we can't take off. We still have minerals in the ship. And Brash Young David's like, where? He's like, sorry.
He calls him an idiot. He calls him a fool. Which one?
Both are accurate.
Yeah.
So the doctor's like, gives it to one of the Power Rangers and he's going to go dump it. And that guy goes to dump it and gets killed by Sorensen, who's like turned into like a hulking beast thing. But I think they do somehow they do dump it, but he's like, it's still not working. He's like, there must be more on the ship. So they need to search the ship. My favorite character comes back, says he found the dead guy. And then we see Sorensen like drinking more of that stuff and
his teeth look messed up? Like he doesn't have all of his bottom teeth?
And all of his top teeth are just fucked up. He looks like hairier, but more balding at the same time.
Like it's patchy.
And he's like, just like, it's like hair's clumpy all over him. His hands are all gnarled and it's very uncomfortable. But he drinks the stuff and he looks fine. How cognizant is Sorensen of this, do you think?
Okay, so... And here's kind of like the question I have. Because the energy creatures as they exist in the, like, anti-world, all they really want are their minerals and for these people to F off, right?
Right.
But when Sorensen is like, werewolf anti-man, which is what they call him.
The anti-man!
His motives are unclear. His motives seem to be to just murder people?
No, he's doing exactly what the antimatter does, which is sucking the moisture, the liquid out of people. Like, it's turning him into the thing.
But, like, the thing seems to only attack people who are trying to get the antimatter off the ship, which is what
So the antimatter just sucks people dry. It's just what it does. So the doctor's like, leave us alone, and we'll give you all your stuff back and leave.
Okay, but, like, that would imply some cognizance.
The big antimatter on the planet, sure, but maybe, like, the guy turning into the antimatter stuff, being affected by it, maybe it's making him slightly mindless.
Alright.
Maybe. Or he's very cognizant of it, and he kind of does some asshole-ish stuff under.
It seems, though, like he isn't. Because the doctor kind of is like, hey, you're a scientist and you wanted to, like, save the Earth.
But you're not.
But you're not going to. Right. And, like, talks him into doing the right thing. So it seemed to me like he wasn't very aware.
Maybe he's only slightly cognizant.
Alright.
I don't know. But Sorensen does try to say that, because they find the dead guy, and he's like, it must be the doctor and Sarah Jane. It does seem like he's trying to save his own ass a little bit. Maybe it's because he's like, I did do this and it's bad, but I have it under control. If they know that I did this, they're going to stop me from doing it. And I got it under control and I'm going to fix things.
Okay.
Possibly. They put the dead guy into this casket thing that shoots dead people out into space. Mm-hmm. It's like a real, like, at sea when they dump the body off into the ocean, but it's shooting it out into space. And that becomes an important plot thing a couple of times coming up. Sorensen says the doctor probably did it. Brash and David completely agrees and is like, we're going to take the doctor and interrogate him and possibly kill him and do stuff. We want to check out his ship is what it is. We want to check out the TARDIS. They leave Sarah Jane with Sorensen, and Sorensen starts to freak out, right? And Sarah Jane freezes because it's happening near her. This antimatter thing. Because Sorensen is going full-on werewolf. Which is also reminiscent of Inferno. The whatever it was Benton turned into. I almost said Benson.
Benson?
I almost betrayed my boy. That's the little werewolf thing that Benton turned into. It's very sort of reminiscent of that from Inferno. But yes, he starts freaking out, and then Sarah Jane freezes, and then Sorensen leaves. And kills my favorite guy. How dare he? My fave is literally sucked dry. Sarah Jane is like following him, and she hears him being... Like, you hear it. Like, you see his shadow on the wall, and you hear, like, the sucking noises. And Sarah Jane's just, like, frozen in terror seeing it. Oh, no, wait, they didn't take the doctor to the TARDIS. They took him because they're like, stuff's happening, and he's like, let me see what's happening, maybe I can fix it. Which is that they're trying to leave, but they're getting pulled back towards the planet. Because the antimatter is dragging them back, and they're going to crash into the planet if they don't solve things, right? Then he takes them to the TARDIS. They hear the screaming of my favorite guy. Brash young David turns away for a second, and the doctor decks him, punches him right in the face. I feel like this is the first time that the doctor's been really sort of violent. This doctor.
Oh, I was going to say, no?
No, this doctor.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't really remember him doing much fisticuffs earlier. But he runs and sees what's being, what's yelling, the screaming's about. And he finds Sarah Jane with my favorite character all mummified. And then Brash young David comes up, sees them with the body, and is like, you did this. And immediately shoots the doctor. Doesn't even hesitate. Why didn't he shoot to kill? He only shot to, knock him out.
You can't kill the doctor. He's the main character.
Yeah, you can. He's been killed multiple times.
Well, this one's still pretty new.
At least 13 times.
We just got him. He still has that new doctor smell.
What does that smell like?
Jelly babies, probably.
That makes sense.
And what are those little oranges? Santazumas.
Santazumas?
Yeah. He smells like jelly babies and Santazumas.
What do jelly babies smell like? Don't they smell like multiple different things? Aren't they different flavors?
It's just candy, man.
They're going to eject the doctor and Sarah Jane into space. They put them both in those little coffin shooty out things. And
coffin shooty out things.
Yeah, the coffin cannons. And the old wise guy and Brash young David get in an argument about it because the old guy's like, we don't know for sure that it's them. You can't just shoot them out into space. And Brash young David's like, fuck you, we're going to. And they get into a fight about it. And the Brash young David literally pushes the old wise guy's arm into the control and makes him shoot them out into space. That's rude.
I think his whole thing is that anytime he's questioned, he's like, I'm in command. I'm the leader. You gotta do what I say. And so he won't have somebody who won't do what he says, to the point that if he can't get him to follow through on an order, he's still not gonna do it himself.
What a dickweed. And that's the cliffhanger is they basically start it actually gets all the way closed. And that is the end of episode 3. They get shot into space. And we're now to episode 4, which I've called Attack of the Anti-Man. While this is happening, the pilot of the ship gets attacked by Sorensen.
By Anti-Man.
And dies. So they're like, oh shit, it can't be the Doctor and Sarah Jane, so they pull him back in. Though, for some reason, Brash young David's still like, they somehow did it! And they're like, no, fucking
They couldn't have. Calm down for 5 seconds and use your brain.
And Sarah Jane sort of tells the Doctor, listen, it's definitely... Because the Doctor's sort of coming to, and they get out of the thing. And she's like, it was Sorensen, because I had that, zone out when he was here. The Doctor's like, his brain cells are being destroyed, and he's getting all funky.
He's just getting full of funk.
The funk. the doctor's going to go check out Sorensen, and she's going to go tell everybody, hey, Sorensen's bad. We need to shut everything down, lock it off. So they do. They shut all the hatchways, which is like, it just shows door after door after door after door getting shut, like Mystery Science Theater 3000. The doctor sonics his way into Sorensen's room, gets the canister with the antimatter stuff on it, and then he sees the solution stuff and pours some of it onto the antimatter, and then it sparkles, and the doctor's like,
I know what that means.
That's some bad mojo. And while he's doing this, Sorensen comes in and sees him. He's like, it's not a cure. It doesn't really work. It's just going to it only temporarily relieves it. But then like when it comes back, it's going to come back harder each time. And basically, if you do it again, you're just going to completely change and be unable to turn back. You're going to be completely messed up. The doctor just sort of says all this, and he's like, oh shit, you're right. He's like, I know what I need to do. Because he has the stuff inside of him. So he, like, takes the like, the doctor gives him the canister of stuff. It's like, you know what to do.
And just very trustingly gives it back to him. I think part of the, like, monologue he gives him is, like, you're a scientist. Like, I know you got into this for the right reasons. I know since you've been here, you've been, like, really blinded by your own ego and your desire for, like, fame and glory. But at some point, all you wanted was to save the Earth. And, like, you still have a chance to do that. And just hands him the canister and, like, walks away.
There's, like, it's even, like, just, like, the sad moment of, like, because he's, like, the doctor's turned away from him and he's walking toward the door with the canister. And it's like, my hypothesis was wrong. It was, like, real sad. He heads out. He's going to go shoot himself out into space.
Because he's got antimatter all up in him.
While this is going on, Brash Young David is losing his goddamn mind.
Yeah, for no real good reason.
He's like, well, okay, if it's fucking Sorensen, then I'm gonna kill Sorensen, and like he's going to like expose him to this thing. Like he takes like this real technical piece out of the ship that's like powering the ship or something, and he's like, I'll expose him to this, and if it might kill us both, but it'll definitely kill him at least. And everybody's like, calm the fuck down. What is your problem? And like one of his crewmates goes to stop him and he just straight up shoots him. And then Sarah Jane's just like, just let him go. Let him go. So old guy's like, just get out of here. So he goes to go try to find Sorensen so he can blow him up with this like, it looks like a weird coffee thermos. I don't remember what it was. He's going to go find Sorensen. But Sorensen is going to go shoot himself out into space. As he's grabbing the little handle that shoots him out, his hand is like completely changed. And he doesn't shoot himself out into space. He just gets up and because he's fully mutated now. Brash Young David bumps into Sorensen and like opens the thing on him. And he's like full on freaky. That thing we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it's still like, him. It's an outline. So it's
No, it's not an outline yet. This is when like he's that glowing effect on him, and he's like just like got long hair and the teeth.
This is like, where he's full werewolf, and he's just like Arr! And like whatever it is that the Brash Young David is doing to him is just fucking him up real good. Yeah, and then it turns him into the outline. Basically, it like amplifies it and multiplies him. Yes.
No, wait, actually, he doesn't turn into an outline. It just duplicates him because there actually still is a physical body version of him.
Yeah, so he's there physically, and then there are also outline hams.
Yeah, whatever Brash Young David did
was brash.
And just caused more trouble than fixing anything. And then Sorensen kills him. Now he's Brash Young dead. Sorensen looks like a really mutated Tim Conway, if you know who Tim Conway is.
Nope.
I say these things for our listeners and not for you, because I know you don't know who anybody is.
Oh, okay.
Tim Conway was sort of like the comedy sidekick to both Don Knotts and Harvey Korman in different media. I think there's like a thing where like the doctor says to Sarah Jane, like, he's made things worse. And Sarah Jane's like, things can get worse? So the doctor's like, well, I'm going to go take care of Sorensen. I'm going to go take care of this problem. And like heads out with the canister of... He found it inside the coffin cannon. He's going to go find the real Sorensen. And he's like waving him off with the canister, the outlines. Because he doesn't need the outlines, he needs the real one. And then he finds the real Sorensen and shoots him. Oh, and they've put the thermos back in its little tube. So that's fine. So that the ship's will be fine eventually. But he finds the real Sorensen, shoots him, and drags him into the TARDIS. And this is when it happens, right?
He pilots the TARDIS straight back down to the planet, exactly where and when he meant to.
After, of course, he chains him up. He puts like these big metal bracket thing that connects from his arms to his legs. And then, like, Sorensen
Because the doctor just has that lying around.
He's into some stuff, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? He's a doctor. But
it's actually really scary when Sorensen starts to, like, bend it, and you're like, like, the doctor's, like, fiddling with the TARDIS.
And he wakes up and
starts breaking out, and you're like, hey, pay attention, he's gonna get out!
He chases he, like, breaks the thing off and then, like, chases the doctor with the big metal rod that he just broke. Mm-hmm. Like, chasing him with the stick. And they exit the TARDIS, and they're at the hole. And the doctor basically pushes him into the hole and then throws the canister in after him. The original script, that was it. He was dead, which kind of makes sense. But the guy who wrote it was like, or one of the guys who wrote it was like, this show's for children. We should maybe pull it back just a little bit. This may be a little too far. So when Sorensen falls in, another Sorensen, perfectly fine Sorensen, comes out. He's fine, and the doctor takes him into the TARDIS. They TARDIS back to the ship. Also, there was some, like, unimportant things with the Sarah Jane and the old wise guy setting up these little tiny satellite dishes in the control room to keep the outlines away, and it didn't really work. But then the outlines all disappear when Sorensen falls in the hole, so it didn't really matter anyway. The ship is about 30 seconds away from hitting the planet, and then it slows down and stops, and then reverses and gets out of there.
Goes out into space.
The doctor walks in and says, hey, look what I got. Ta-da!
Everyone's like, thanks.
And Sorensen sort of just, like, wobbles out. And, like, the doctor's, like, waving him on. Like, come here. Sorensen's like, right, it's gonna do some alternative energy stuff. And the doctor's like, no, you're not doing the mineral thing. What you want to do is this. You want to study the kinetic energy from planetary movements. That's where some untapped potential is. That's what you were telling me. And he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And the doctor's like, anyway, we got to get to London, right, Sarah Jane? And she's like, you better, motherfucker. And then the TARDIS twirls away. It's a really cool shot. You see the TARDIS just, like, twirling around. And that's the end of Planet of Evil.
Doesn't really sound like the planet was that evil, though.
Right. It's mostly the thing in the hole.
Yeah, but even that wasn't evil.
The whack-a-mole outline. Yeah, it wasn't that evil. Also, there's a whole thing about the planet.
Like, they were taking its stuff.
Yeah, and then, like, the planet itself was supposed to be evil, but saying the planet was alive, but it wasn't.
It didn't do
that
much.
alive.
All
yeah.
it really did was hide minerals.
But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back for our final thoughts. Listen to this ad.
You ever been curious about the real or fictional worlds?
In the beginning, there were laser kings and giant robots.
Those who created.
I'm going to feed you to this tentacle monster now. No.
Or what inspires.
And I remember being in my room with my brother, and we immediately, like within 5 seconds, he decided he was a DC fan and I decided I was a Marvel fan. And we were going through and sorting out all of the comics.
And you might enjoy Here Be Tigers, the only podcast show where we take life by the tail. Now available on Google Play, Stitcher, and iTunes, and of course your favorite podcasting network. This is Here Be Tigers.
Now we're back. Tony, please, for the love of all things holy, do you know what time it is?
Like, in a physical sense?
Do you know what time it is in the podcast? What time it is for?
Oh, we've been doing the podcast for about an hour and 45 minutes.
No, do you know what we do at this point in the show?
We end it.
No, we do something before we end it. What do we do before we end it?
You say, keep calm.
No, no, before that.
We thank Matt Golden.
Before that.
We plug our Patreon.
Before that.
Before that, I don't know. We plug our website.
Before that.
We'd stop talking about the show.
It's time for final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
You have plenty of bits for this, but nothing for the opening. Do you want to tell your final thoughts?
I was previously mentioned, really, really sick when we watched this. I was, like, half cognizant. But I remember getting to the end and being like, I really liked that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I was kind of surprised, only because normally we know when like a big episode's coming up because we'll have like the way we schedule guests, we let people request. And so if there's like a significant episode for whatever reason, a lot of people request to be on it. Also, people are really bad about telling us like, oh man, wait till you get to that one. And like, I specifically remember somebody being like, I don't remember that one all that well. Like, that was the reaction I got from most people when I told them what episode we were on, which surprised me, because like watching it, I was like, this is a pretty solid episode. Although now, being in the future, I'm trying to remember like specific things that I really enjoyed, and I'm getting a sick brain. I like the moment of the doctor handing off the canister, because that to me is like a real power move. Of like, he's giving this guy the chance to redeem himself, and he's so either sure of it, or the idea that this person has the chance to do it is so important that he just gives it to him and lets him make his choice. And I really like that. Like you said, the set design was really cool. Like, when they're in the caves and stuff, that's a set. That's amazing.
Do you mean around the hole?
Yeah. A lot of that's really impressive. There's a couple of really, really cute Sarah Jane scenes. I don't know. It's a solid serial.
I agree. I know, like, we're starting sort of era of Doctor Who that's more horror oriented, and I feel like this was really terrifying in places. Like, really well done horror. Like, Sorensen, like, his entire transformation, his eyes freaked me the fuck out. Everything about him made me uncomfortable in ways I haven't felt since, I don't know, probably the screaming dudes from Fury from the Deep. This reminded me a lot in tone to the Ark in Space, which is, like, huge fan favorite, right? Ark in Space, everybody loves Ark in Space, and because it's scary and it's all this and it's that. I think this serial is way more solid than Ark in Space. Technically and emotionally. I mean, there's no bubble wrap for one, but like the set is amazing. I really liked the outline monster. I think that's a really cool effect. I mean, I know I keep calling it the outline monster, which sounds like derogatory, but it works. It looks really good, and it's kind of...
It looks alien in a way that's like your mind couldn't quite comprehend it. And
right.
So that's what you're seeing.
Yeah, there's a lot of that sort of like surreal horror here. Like when the Doctor falls into the hole. Like, I feel like if this had been like a third Doctor thing or any of the other Doctor things, it might have been played more for comedy, like his like weird faces he's making. But when it happens here, it's terrifying. It's not humorous at all. You're like, I don't know what's happening to him, and I'm frightened. Just how small the Doctor is compared with the gigantic monster thing, you know? It's like, I don't know, it's almost like Cthulhu-esque, you know what I mean? Sort of like just this horrific thing. So yeah, I feel like the horror is like on point for this serial. Everything with Sorensen works, the transformation, the scene where he's basically going to sacrifice himself. I was like, holy shit, this is intense. And it's just a guy basically getting into his own coffin. And he's going to shoot himself out into space to save the universe, which I think is great. True, he doesn't do it, but like that scene is like intense, and you're like, and when he turns into the monster and goes away, it's like, oh fuck. I don't know, I got really like emotionally involved in this serial. More than I have in some previous serials. Like, definitely more than Ark in Space. I like Ark in Space, but I think this one is a much more solid, more well-written, and well-shot. There's, like, some beautiful shots in this. Like, when I was making the GIFs and stuff, like, I just sort of kept watching it, because, like, look at that. Every shot is, like, really well composed. Like, especially in the ship, the way they, like, frame everybody is pretty good. They have those, we didn't talk about this, but the main control where their flight control stuff is like this glass table, and they're like up on a second level. So there's a lot of shots where you see that like underneath, and like the camera is shooting through the glass desk of them like operating the controls, and you see their faces through the glass desk. And there's like a lot of interesting shots like that, of just putting the camera in interesting places. Dragging Sorensen through the TARDIS, around the TARDIS consoles. There's like a lot of really good shots like that. The drone shots. So, I don't know. Like, this serial to me is like is probably the best Fourth Doctor serial we've had so far for me. So, wow. I think it's terrifying and wonderful. But if you like this episode, you can check out more on watchathon.com and be sure to rate and comment on our iTunes. It's very helpful and gets us noticed and stuff. If you'd like to help us out even more, you can go to watchathon.com/support, and there you'll find a link to our Patreon page, which you can get to just by going to patreon.com/watchathon. And there you can donate a monthly amount to get all kinds of rewards like day early episodes, uncut video of the podcast records, bonus episodes, and live streams where you can see Toni being really, really sick.
Who doesn't want that?
And we occasionally give out links to our live streams, so follow us on Patreon and Twitter and all that, and you'll see when